Good morning, folks. Thanks for tuning in. Before I even start, I do want to say, if you like what you're watching, please hit the like button and subscribe. I'm trying to do this just to help educate people and see what's out there and see how to do things the right way, or show you how to do things the right way. So I'm going to show you the job we have today, and we're going to go from there. So before we get started today, I do want to say the materials we're using for this job, we're going to be using two 500 square foot kits available on our website, concretefloorsolutions.com. So if you're interested, I'll have the links below when we're done, so you can order those products if you're interested also. Okay, today we have a 3-car garage. This floor is actually an elevated deck. There is a garage underneath us also. Now, the unique thing about this floor is we have a nice saw cut going down the middle. That's not a problem at all. But once again, we have problem joints, which is these joints, and there is the metal keyway that runs down all these joints. So there's 3 of these joints. We have one over here, one in the middle, and one down here. So we're gonna have to try to cut these out the best we can. We're gonna fill them with a polyurea joint filler and then put our floor on top of it. The issue with this floor is when the homeowner is parking here, water drips off their vehicles, goes down in these joints, through the ceiling and into their basement underneath, which they do not want, and I can't blame them. So we'll show you what we do to rectify that. Okay, so we're starting to get our equipment in here. We're getting set up. We have our grinder in. First we have to deal with these joints, which I know I mentioned earlier, but we're gonna use this saw, and there is a plunge cut diamond on here. We're gonna set that to about 3/4 of an inch deep. And first thing we're gonna do is start to cut on either side of this metal joint. And I really don't know the exact game plan yet. We're kind of figure this one out as it happens here. But we have to cut this joint open first and then see what we can do with that metal. Okay, so I'm making the initial cuts. I'm trying to cut on the left and right side of that metal keyway joint there. After I make these cuts, what I'm going to do is go in with a hand grinder at a 45-degree angle and try to cut the tops of those metal keyway joints off, which is very tedious, very time consuming. It is not a fun project at all to do, but I'm just trying to get the joints open enough so we can get joint filler in there to seal them so no water leaks through there. And in the meantime, don't burn the house down while I'm doing it. Okay, so these joints, you can tell by time lapse, we fought with these a long time. But what we had to do is cut at a 45-degree angle, basically on both sides of the joint, to cut that metal out. So now there's metal in there, but we're gonna fill the top of it with the polyurea so they're open. So we're gonna put some sand in the bottom of these, because if we don't, see that big crack in the bottom, the polyurea is gonna run right out the bottom. So we're gonna pre-fill these with sand, then we're gonna fill them with polyurea. And then we are going to grind the whole floor, and then as a precaution, I'm gonna pour some 343, which is that real thin epoxy that we use. Pour it over the joint so in case there's hairline cracks on either side of the joint, it'll bind it all together. Okay, so we're gonna run down the joint. I'm pouring sand in there. Jeff's behind me with the brush, just kind of pushing it in there. We're using a mixed grade of sand made of coarse and fine particles just to fill the very bottom so the polyurea joint filler doesn't run down through the bottom of the floor and into the basement area. So now I'm filling it with the polyurea, and I'm gonna run across all the joints, fill it, and we're gonna let it set up.
Yep.
All right, so now Jeff is just gonna run the scraper down this joint here just to shave it off. And now you can see right behind, you can see how smooth that is. Now when we grind the floor, that's gonna be totally smooth. You won't even see a joint when we're done. All right, so we just started grinding. Okay, so we started grinding. I'm spraying a little bit of water in front of the diamonds to keep them cool. I've talked about this before, but when these diamonds get hot, they glaze over and nothing happens. So I'm just trying to keep them cool a little bit until we get through this. And you can also see the floor vibrate a little bit just from the weight of the grinder on there, shaking things around. So now I am running the edge with the hand grinder. I'm also going to run over these joints really quick too, in preparation for the CFS 343 we're going to pour over the joints. Okay, so that was quite a bit of prep work there. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. I'm going to give you a detail of these joints. They have those metal key lock joints in there. We had to cut some of it out, some of it didn't cut out. It was quite a chore, but I'm going to zoom in. I'll show you what we did and go from there. Okay, so you see we filled them with the polyurea joint filler. We shaved them smooth and then we ground over them. I don't know if you can see just to the left edge of the joint there, there's like a little opening there. What we're gonna do is all these joints, I'm going to pour some of the 343 that we have in those ketchup bottles on these joints just to fill those little areas in. God forbid there's an opening, at least it's filled with epoxy before we put our floor down, because we don't want water getting in here and leaking down to the basement. Okay, so we're getting ready to, we're gonna run over these joints really quick with the 343, and this is just an extra precaution to make sure everything is filled in. There's some real tiny hairline cracks in here, and the 343 will take care of them. So, like I always say, use these ketchup bottles. I mixed this 100 milliliters of part A, 100 milliliters of part B. I'm gonna fill this, shake it, and run down here very quickly, just to get a bead of epoxy to fill these little hairlines. There's a couple other little random hairline cracks too. That's my mix. Get the lid on, shake and move. Yeah, we're gonna grind over these again with the hand grinder. So I always say don't worry about cosmetics when you're doing this part. This jug is starting to get warm already. That was one mix. All right, so now I'm mixing up that second batch, and I'm just gonna fill the rest of these quick. And it probably only took me 2 minutes to do because the material sets up that quickly anyway. So although I do have this in time lapse, it probably took about 2 minutes for me to do the rest of these joints. This cart, by the way, the RACATAC, works phenomenal for this. I can run parallel to the joint, and as fast as I squirt the material out, I can roll along with it, so it's easy on your knees and back. Okay folks, so we're done with lunch. I'm going to show you what these joints look like. They're all filled now. We're just going to run over them quick with the hand grinder to grind off the excess epoxy and get a good scratch on it. And then we're going to put down the prime coat today, and tomorrow we're going to come back, do the intermediate coat, and then the flakes. Okay, so this is what we have here now. This is, again, that 343 that we use. It's only been about 15 minutes since we put this in, but this stuff sets up so fast. It's great. It's totally set now. So I'm going to come in with the grinder, run the grinding wheel over this really quick, get a good scratch on it, get the excess material off. There were also 4 little bolt holes here that I filled, but can you see the scratch in the concrete here. Now we still have to vacuum this, but you see there's a heavy scratch throughout the concrete, which is what you want before you put down your epoxy. So we're gonna get at this pretty soon. Okay, so I run the hand grinder down these joints. Again, I'm on the RACATAC. I absolutely love that thing. So we got everything ground off of there. Jeff's doing the final vacuum, so we're gonna get ready for the primer, which is coming up in a couple seconds here. Okay, so I'm mixing up the CFS 707 LVP charcoal gray, running that down parallel along the back wall, and Jeff is going to immediately start rolling perpendicular with the 18-inch roller over what I just squeegeed, and we're just simply getting a nice uniform coat over the entire floor. Okay, so Jeff is finishing up the final back roll on the prime coat. What I want to try to show is if you can look inside this prime coat, right in that glare there, there's actually, they call them craze cracks. There's tiny little cracks that were in the surface of this that were completely undetectable until we installed the prime coat. But the advantage of the prime coat is that it penetrates into those little micro cracks and glues everything back together again. So now when you put your coating on top of there, your coating is bonded to a material that is fused into the concrete. So that's the huge advantage of the primer. So we're just about to wrap this up. We'll be out of here for the day, and tomorrow we're gonna come back to the same color. Okay, so we're back. This is day 2. I'm sorry I'm walking funny here. I have spikes on so I don't leave marks on this floor. This floor, I wanna say it's around 880 square feet, give or take. And we got 2 of the 500 square foot kits. And as far as the flake, we have 30 pounds of flake to do this floor. Each of our 500 square foot kit comes with 15 pounds of flake. There's 30 pounds of flake, so you'll get a feel for what you get out of the 30 pounds of flake. Because a lot of people ask me, how much flake do I need to do a floor? So I'm gonna flip this around. I'll show you close up what we have of the floor here so you can see what we have. Okay, so again, this is the prime coat. This is the 707 LVP. This was applied yesterday around 3 o'clock in the afternoon. It's now, I want to say, almost 9 o'clock in the morning the following day. So it turned out really good. This is also charcoal gray, by the way. And this is what we have. So we are going to get ready to put down the 707. And the flake selection for today is Nightfall. That's the color of the flake. I have some preloaded in the bucket there. Let's see if I can get a number. This flake is 715. Okay, so once again, I mix up the material. I pour a ribbon along that back wall and squeegee parallel to the floor. Now this material is thicker, so it doesn't go as far, so I made it halfway with the first bucket. I'm mixing up the second bucket and squeegeeing it across. Jeff is doing some edging just out of camera there. Now I am using the 6-inch roller. I'm going around the one way. Jeff's using the brush, detailing the other edges, and then he is going to start to roll perpendicular to the way I just squeegeed, just like the last coat, over the entire floor. Okay, so Jeff is doing the final back roll on the intermediate coat. This is the CFS 707, and this was applied heavy, and it's cold out this morning. I mean, we're, I want to say, in the upper 40s, so this material is a little gooey, so Jeff's going a little slow just so the material levels off good after he back rolls. So you can see in the light there the difference before and after he back rolls. It's nice and consistent out there. I'm reaching in like 5 feet with my extension here. And this area out here is not back rolled yet. You can still see the squeegee marks. He's gonna back roll and I'm gonna flake right behind him, and then we're done for today. Okay, so Jeff is finishing up the back rolling here. I'm starting to flake around the edges. And if you notice too, when I put this flake down, I always say this, I go lightly over the whole floor, and then once I get over the whole floor, I'm going to, well, I consult with the owner here to see how heavy they want it, and then I start going back over the floor again and slowly add more. Once it's on the floor, you can't take it down. So you just consistently keep going over it more and more. Okay, so we just got done installing the flake. This is day number 2. There is no top coat on this, although there's still a really high gloss. So this is the Nightfall Flake on the charcoal gray 707. But you can see the flake here. Again, this is a heavy random flake. You can see how consistent it is. And one thing I did want to mention is the amount of flake. Each of these kits we sell with 15 pounds of flake. So there's 30 pounds of flake here. That's how much is in the box here. We used maybe 10 pounds for this flake coverage, just so you get a feel for how much flake you get with this. A little bit does go quite a long way. So we'll be back tomorrow. We'll do the clear coat and we'll show you the finished product. Okay, we are back. Day 3. Right now I'm walking on the floor with spikes so I don't leave any prints. And yesterday we flaked with the intermediate coat. I'm going to flip this around. I'll show you what we have. Okay, so this is the charcoal gray epoxy with the Nightfall, I believe it's B715 flake. Don't quote me on that. I'll have that in the description below. So you can see what we have here. This is a very consistent look to it. I think it looks really, really good. These flakes do add some texture. Now we're going to do the top coat with the CFS 137 MUV, and we're going to put some aluminum oxide in it like I always recommend, but you can see already some of the texture that we have. You definitely always want to put texture in your garage floor. It's going to be way too slippery. So I'm going to put this up on the tripod. You can watch us mix and apply the 137 MUV. Oh, from a tool standpoint, we have our 18-inch epoxy glide roller, our 6-inch edging roller, our 24-inch Midwest Rake S550 Professional Series squeegee, and that's it. All right, so I'm mixing the material now. I just pour it out again parallel with the long wall, and I am squeegeeing parallel with that wall. Now I am throwing out some aluminum oxide, and Jeff is doing the edging. He is going to start back rolling. I mix up the second batch and pour that out, and I'm going to throw the aluminum oxide in that shortly. I'm dealing with the edges along the front doors because there's lots of edging, you know, between the doors and stuff. So that's that, and this is the finished product. Okay folks, so we just got done applying the CFS 137 MUV top coat. We put the aluminum oxide in there so you have some texture on the surface. I'm going to flip this camera around and I will show you how everything looks. Once again, thanks for tuning in. If you like what you're seeing, please subscribe, hit the like button. We'll see you on the next one. Thank you. Here we go. I can't step out there, this is all wet, but you can see the aluminum oxide there in the reflection. This floor turned out really, really pretty. Again, this is charcoal gray with the B715 Nightfall Flake. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you on the next one.